Greetings from our Middle Tennessee studio, and welcome to today's Vista Points podcast, Choose Your Path, where Vista Points staff are committed to improving the quality of life for people of any age who are living with a physical, mental, or intellectual disability. I'm Bart, your podcast host. Throughout this year, we've talked about ways a beneficiary, that's someone living with a physical, mental, or intellectual disability, can access their special needs trust to pay for items or services that will give them a better quality of life. Today, we're moving away from sharing items and service considerations to the opportunity of entertainment. Yes, that's correct. Entertainment. Beneficiaries can use their special needs trust to pay for entertainment. Our journey takes us to West Tennessee, where we meet a special fellow who's quite popular and well known, especially during the Christmas season. It's Santa. Hello, Santa. Welcome to our Vista Points podcast.
Oh, well, hello there, Bart. Thank you so much for having me today.
Chuck, being Santa is probably an enjoyable, rewarding position. How did you get started doing this?
Well, it dates way back about 52 years, actually. I was in the Air Force, and I was stationed at England Air Force Base in Alexandria, Louisiana, and at the hospital squadron. And the guys in the squadron decided they wanted to do a party for the children of the squadron. And so I overheard the conversation and said, well, hey, if you do a party, I want to do Santa. And they said, oh, great. That would be wonderful. I said, yeah, you can't do a Christmas party without Santa. I'm going home for Thanksgiving. I'll buy the costume and come back and I'll do Santa for the party. Well, when I got back, having bought my costume and gotten all pumped up to do Santa for this party, they had canceled the party. So I told them, I said, look, I'm pumped up, ready to go, got the costume. I'm doing Santa somewhere. And we happened to have a pediatric clinic there in the hospital. And I said, the light bulb went off, and I said, Santa Claus Day in pediatrics would be perfect. They said, well, we don't have time to advertise it. I said, it doesn't need advertising. Just when the kid comes to the doctor, Santa will be there and he can chat with him. Well, the base newspaper got wind of it, and I ended up with about a 5x7 photo above the fold on the front page of the newspaper with one of the doctor's little boy, and then the girl that was the reporter, photographer, her son. And that's where it started, with a horrible costume from Sears and Roebuck. And it's been going ever since.
Oh, that's great, Chuck. That's a good story, and thanks for sharing that with our listeners and us. And I never knew that Santa was a veteran. So thank you for your service, Santa.
Well, thank you.
I have to say that you have quite a unique job. You bring happiness and joy to so many. Does your company, Ho Ho On The Go, work with companies, or does it work with entire families? Or is one family member usually the person you interact with?
Yes, all of the above. I can do corporate parties, which I have done. Law offices, other things like that. And also, I did a family reunion out at Shelby Farms of Doe. Yes, out north of town, Shelby Forest. And for last year, it had a grand time. And then I also do where people call me and say, hey, can you come over? So, I'm approached many ways.
Wow. Do clients usually know exactly what they want, or do you give them options, or how does that work?
That's another one of those, all of the aboves, in that they call, and usually when I'm there, it's mainly a photo op and the children giving their list to Santa, and that's basically it. But I have done other things. I've read stories. I've taken a puppet with me to kind of help along. So most of the time it's kind of winging it, but there are certain things, and I'll tell you a story in a little while about one of those particular times.
Great. I'll be glad to hear the story. What are some of the special requests that you've received from your clients? For example, do you visit with older people, such as people living with dementia and Alzheimer's?
Yes, I've been to several and have scheduled several uh, uh, assisted living type facilities and so forth. Now, my mother was in one before she moved out of Memphis to my brother's in Cleveland, Tennessee. And I went out one evening, just like right after supper, and was in the dining hall with they hadn't left away from supper yet, and visited with several, with the people there in the dining room, including my mom. And then the person that had coordinated it said, "Well, we've got some people that don't come down to the dining room for dinner. Can we visit them in their rooms?" And I said, "Well, of course." And they said, "Well, I've got a little gift." And they had a little gift bag with something, that was for them in there. And so we walked around and very quietly slipped into the rooms and, chatted with them a second and maybe got a picture and put their bag down. Well, this particular room, I walked in, it was all nice and dark except for the night light on. And all I could see was this head sticking out of the covers of this little old lady. And so we were talking and, "Shh, be quiet, she's asleep," kind of thing. And I went to set the bag down on her cart there, the food table. And I heard this, "Santa Claus," from the bed. And I'm going, "Yes, dear, it's me. Now, I'm just going to leave you this little gift and you go on back to sleep, okay?" And she says, "Okay." And she did, and I left. But it was such a sweet memory of that wee little voice, just like a little child would do. And this lady was, an elderly woman. But that proves that Santa's friends with all ages. They
That's
all.
wonderful. That's wonderful. Those of you just tuned in, we're talking with Chuck Bohannon, also known as Santa Claus. And he was just talking about dealing with an older person with Alzheimer's dementia. This is National Alzheimer Awareness Month in November. So we did want to bring that part in. You've got the ultimate job, Chuck, or should I say Santa. You probably know a little bit about Vista Points. We work with adults who are living with a disability or children with special needs. Have you visited with children who have special needs? What stands out about these Santa visits? And maybe you have a story about that.
Well, most of the time, I have those sort of folks, the special needs kids will come. I worked at the Pink Palace, or Museum of Science and History, they call it now, I think, and in the Enchanted Forest 2 days a week. And they have just bus loads after bus loads for like a week before the kids get out of school for Christmas. And a lot of times it will be special needs kids that come. And whether they be in a wheelchair and you just kind of roll them up and they, take the picture with Santa or whatever. I have two young men that come to visit me at the Pink Palace every year. And one of them is a former pastor's grandson that is autistic. And I first started visiting with him at a church function, but then he started coming to the Pink Palace to visit me. And so I tell his mom when I'm going to be there, or she asks me, and I tell her, and they come. And I also have an older a friend who had a nephew or a great nephew that is autistic as well, and he comes to see me at the Pink Palace. And so I have, they have their picture every year, so there's several years there, as that you could see them as they grew and how they progressed by the picture. So I do deal with, some special people that I have that come to visit me like that.
That's so heartwarming. It must be so gratifying to bring joy to a kid's life. Vista Points does wonders with working with his beneficiaries to give people a good quality of life. I see that you like to bring people an elevated quality of life by being Santa. It's like your job is all about love and happiness. Do you have another story you can share with our listeners?
I do, and one it includes a surprise visit. It was in a home, and the mother called me and asked me, and she said, "What I want you to do is my little girl, who's X amount of, I think she was like 5 or 6, as I remember, wanted more than anything else for Christmas a kitten." And she said, "I want her to have the kitten before, Santa's visit, because on Christmas Eve, because the kitten could get out and spoil the surprise or whatever, I guess." But she said, "I would like for you to come by and present the kitten." And I said, "I'd love to." And she said, "I will meet you outside, at the time we agreed on. I'll meet you outside, and the kitten will be in a little gift bag, and you can go in. I'll go back in, and you can ring the bell, and she'll answer the door, and you can give her kitten." So everything went great. I got in, and she right in the foyer of the house. Here's the little girl all excited to see Santa, because she wasn't expecting, me to be there. And I have this little gift bag in my hand, and just as I'm about to hand it to her, the kitten pops up out of the bag. His head pops up out of the bag, and the little girl just squealed with laughter, with delight, "My kitten!" And so it was really a lot of fun to do that one, because to see the look on her face and the delight that she had gotten her kitten, and I was a part of it.
That's a great story. You really are Santa.
Well, I like to think so.
I saw on your website, Ho Ho on the Go, that people can call the sleigh phone to schedule your visits. Do companies use your services, or do they only call around Christmas? Or do companies ask for your service at other times of the year too?
Well, that's interesting, because this year, this past 2023, I have opened myself out to the entire year. I was usually only, at Christmas time, but I realized that there are other possibilities where Santa would be instrumental in their gathering, whether like a Christmas in July or whatever. In fact, Dogwood Creek Neighborhood Association there in Germantown called me to do. They were a regular client at Christmas time, and I saw the lady that's my contact, and was talking to her, and I said, "Well, I've opened out, and I'm kind of looking for things like Christmas in July and so forth to make appearances." She said, "We're having a 4th of July parade the first Saturday in July. Why don't you come and be in the parade?" And I said, "I'd love to." So I had gone into like a Hawaiian shirt that sort of resembled Santa's jacket, the winter jacket, and khaki pants and a red baseball cap. But I got there, and she had arranged for me to be the grand marshal of the parade. So it was a great time doing that parade. But the interesting thing about it is that we were arriving down through the neighborhood, and I said, "I don't see any people. Why aren't the people standing out front watching the parade go by?" And she said, "They're in the parade." And I turned around, and the entire neighborhood was behind us in the parade. So it was great fun. But I'm that's the only thing I really had other than Christmas. But I would love to do other things, during the year, because there are places where Santa could be uh,
What fun.
a
What
good fit.
fun. I bet if I think about it, I know many companies who could have a visit from, you could visit their employees.
Yeah.
This would definitely give the employees a boost in their day. Well, that would be something to have Santa come to the office. Can you can you share a story about a corporate client that stands out in your mind? Our listeners enjoy those feel good stories.
Well, there was an occasion in Germantown, again, where this corporation had me come to their Christmas party. And the interesting thing about adults is that they want you to do wild and crazy things. And what they wanted me, what was the deal? I sort of emceed a segment of the gathering where they passed out the gifts. And that's when you got to poke fun at the big guys. So, give the vice president of the company a bag of coal, or, this sort of thing. So it was kind of fun. But, that kind of thing, it's amazing how, as Santa, you can get away with almost anything. So,
that's funny.
But and I had a group that would invite me again in Germantown. That would invite me to. They had a private party in their home every Christmas Eve, and in those days I was available on Christmas Eve to not doing something else like singing in the church choir or something, and could go. And they wanted it like at 10 or 10:30, so it was like late Christmas Eve. And I used to laugh and tell the lady, I said, "You realize I've got things to do, that I can't be too late with your party." But it was a lot of fun, because then the people love to get their picture made with Santa. And so, we get lots of photo ops and things like that.
What fun. And thanks for sharing the story, Santa. All your stories. Now, I want to talk to Chuck for a second, get down to the nitty gritty. Our listeners will want to know how to contact you after they listen to this podcast. It's going into the holiday season. It's time to book those Santa visits. Could you share your contact information with us, please?
Well, it is certainly time and past, in fact, sort of past it rather, to book, because it books quick, because of my other commitments, like at the Pink Palace Thursdays and Fridays, I'm not available. But then there's others that I've done for several years that book up. After I appear, they book me for next year. But you can reach me on the Slay phone, which is area code 901-619-6436, and also at Santa Chuck at hohoonthego.com. Or I can even give you another email, which is hohoonthego50@gmail.com. Any of those things will certainly get to your booking for Santa, if it can possibly be done.
Wow. Thanks for that information, Chuck. And they could even book you for Christmas in July, like you said, right?
Well, that or any other thing, promotion that they might have that they think Santa will work for. Is
Okay. One of our listeners was off getting a pencil and finding a pencil and piece of paper. So could you give us that contact information once again?
I'd love to. It's the Slay phone is area code 901-619-6436. The emails are Santa Chuck at hohoonthego.com or hohoonthego50@gmail.com. Now, I have a website that gives you those in case you forget it. And it's kind of interesting because I've said it, the name of the website, about 3 times already. It's hohoonthego.com.
That should be easy to remember.
Yeah. And that name really is kind of funny. If you've got time for one more story.
Go ahead. Please do.
I was getting my first business cards printed, and I had a friend who could do it, on the computer for me. And she did. And when she handed them to me, I saw this Ho Ho on the Go with Santa's sleigh with Ho Ho on the Go written in the fumes behind the sleigh, the lines that shows he's moving. And I said, Ho Ho on the Go. I said, I don't remember saying, what is that? She said, Chuck. She said, that you've got to have a catchy title. And she said, toddlers call Santa Ho Ho. Now, if you think about it, a little guy, 2 years old or 1, he'll say, ho, 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 and point. And she said, you're on the go. So you're ho, ho on the go. So that's where it came from. And when I started doing cards professionally, I didn't change it because it was so catchy that, people remember it. And that's the name of the game.
Thanks. Thanks so much, Santa. And thanks so much to our podcast listeners for tuning into today's episode from Choose Your Path, a Vista Points podcast. I hope you enjoyed our whimsical interview with Chuck Bohannon, Santa. I encourage you to contact Chuck and schedule your visit with Santa. If you have questions about the services Vista Points provides, please call 888 422 4076. That number, 888 422 4076. Each of our Vista Point team is happy to answer your questions and assist you in whatever way they can. You can find more information about Special Needs Trust for people of any age who are living with a physical, mental, or intellectual disability on our Facebook page, Vista Points Inc. That's Vista Points INC. I'm happy to say our podcasts have become informative and entertaining resource for many people. We currently have over 5,000 people who listen to our podcasts on the 1st and 15th of every month. Our YouTube channel is vistapointssnt. That's SNT as Special Needs Trust. You can find past episodes on the Vista Points website at vistapoints.org. That's vistapoint.org. Just click on the podcast tab at the top of the page. It will take you to all of our interesting podcasts. Enjoy your day with your loved one. Regardless of where or when you find us, we walk beside you on your path. I look forward to sharing more information with you on how Special Needs Trust can be a benefit to anyone living with a disability. I'm going to ask Santa to help me end this conversation. Ho, 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 ho. Cheers.